Hello, my name's Sam Ashurst and I'm the director of Frankenstein's Creature and the upcoming A Little More Flesh. For this spin-off series, I'm not sure how many episodes I'm going to do, but I wanted to celebrate one of my favourite books of all time, not films, books. Now this book is called The Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film. There it is. Now this is a massively important book to me. Published in 1983, it was the only source of information about some of the greatest trash movies ever made, with all other movie guides at the time ignoring grindhouse and B movies to focus on proper cinema. Now there are over 3,000 films in this book. Monster movies, serial killer films, noirs, biker movies, drug movies, sci-fi films, with the main connective being that these are films made by oddballs for cult freaks like me. Now it's my main ambition to only make films, whether I make 3 films or 30 films. I only want to make films that could fit into the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film. In this new series for Channel Hex, I am going to go through the Psychotronic Encyclopedia and pick out some of my favourite films, whether they're films that you should seek out and see yourself, or they're films that have had an influence on me in some way. I'm going to play you clips, I'm going to analyse the films, but don't worry, I'm not going to go too far into spoilers. I'll probably get to around the midpoint of these films and then stop, so the endings won't be spoiled for you at all. Now, the first film I'm going to look at from this book is a British horror called Fright from 1971. Fright starts with a super creepy song about ladybirds, sung by someone named Nanette. This plays over ominous footage of a girl walking along, clutching books to her chest. This is our hero, Amanda, played by Suzanne George. And the way she's holding her books reminds me of House of the Devil. It won't be the last time Fright reminds me of that movie. I'm pretty sure the director of House of the Devil, Ty West, has definitely seen Fright, but we'll go into that in a little bit. This sequence is beautifully directed. We see Amanda behind the bars of a gate, suggesting she's already trapped by her situation. And we also see her through branches of trees, as though the audience is hiding in the woods, watching her from a distance. We get the credits, which include Dennis Waterman and George Cole credited together, even though they're not connected in the movie, which is nice for all the Minder fans out there. We also get the producer credits, including Harry Fine, who made Twins of Evil in the same year, which is sort of an influence on my film A Little More Flesh. We then get the director credit, Peter Collinson, who made The Italian Job, a film you probably have seen. And then we're into the film itself, and right away we get some more great visual storytelling as we meet the brilliant Honor Blackman, who sadly passed away recently, but she's great in this film. Her character Helen, we immediately see that she's very security conscious and style conscious. There is a lot going on with that outfit. We meet George Cole's gym in a room with the best wallpaper this side of an Argento movie. There's an argument about a cat, which is called Spooky, because this is a horror film after all. We get some stuff about the house being creepy, and we get another shot of Amanda behind bars. This time it's the Bannisters imprisoning her. I actually used this kind of shot in my own 70s movie homage, A Little More Flesh. Now, the framing in general is pretty fascinating here. This is an odd shot. Jim's foregrounded, but to the left. Amanda is central, but she's not just behind a sofa, she's also behind a statue. This is not a normal two-shot. So why stage it like this? Well, it's to create a subconscious feeling of stress. This is a stressful shot, intended to enhance the feeling of clutter in this room. It actually feels like the room is the star of this scene, not the actors. and we'll come back to that in a minute. But look at this production design. The film mostly takes place in this house, so it's very important to make the house itself interesting, and they certainly do that here. Now, I mentioned House of the Devil before, and this scene has a similar vibe. This couple who have hired a babysitter, they have something to hide. It's awkward and it's tense, and I love it.
You won't hear a sound here. Well, apart from the occasional ghost or poltergeist.
Jim!
Sorry.
Amanda is left alone in the house and she explores, like in House of the Devil. And it becomes clear why we had that weirdly framed sofa shot earlier. The house is a character and it's watching Amanda. Kind of Evil Dead vibes here, Evil Dead 2. And there's some great sound design here as well. It's all, again, very simple, but it increases the feeling of threat. Amanda then has a dance in the kitchen, like that other film I've mentioned. What's it called again? Look, no judgments here, Ty West. I spent my career homaging other stuff, but it is good to give your influences credit, and Fright is such an underseen gem. It's a truly great British horror movie, and there's just no way this is a coincidence. So, maybe mention it in an interview in the future if it was an influence on you. Anyway, we then get perhaps the biggest overreaction to a shirt I've ever seen. But the film has earned its jump scare by this point, and it leads to a beautifully eerie image. This happens after Amanda's come back into the house, and it's really creepy. Now, at this point, the seeds have been sown for this film to be loads of different kinds of horror movies. It could be a ghost movie, it could be a home invasion movie, it could even be a slasher movie. But remember, this was 7 years before Halloween came out, so that's pretty interesting that it could potentially be an influence on that absolute classic as well. So in our next scene, Amanda relaxes, but we don't, especially when the lights go out. Then the sound design trickery pays off. And we get a beautiful zoom into Amanda's face to increase the intensity. Now, this is partly because her reaction to this moment is so important, obviously, but also to hem her in. We're back to that sense of her being trapped. Now we fast cut back and forth from the creaking to create a feeling of panic. But it's okay, it's just the kid she's babysitting. Panic over. Or is it?
Shall we do your picture?
We cut away to the couple and then come back for a glorious whip pan. Sam Raimi, eat your heart out. But it's just another fake out. It's the boyfriend Chris, played by Dennis Waterman. Now, through filmmaking alone, we already have this sense of dread. And the mystery of the movie is, how will that dread pay off? Well, the boyfriend is now a suspect. Oh, and we get some classic Final Girl stuff.
Look, you can't stay a virgin all your life, you know.
How do you know? I might not be one.
Oh, well, if you're not, you've got nothing to lose, have you?
And even some meta stuff decades before Scream.
God, it's a right old dump, isn't it? You can make a horror film in here.
Stop trying to frighten me.
I'm not.
Right, so we're going to get into some light spoilers now. So if you haven't seen Fright, by all means switch this off and come back later. I'm going to try and keep it light, but there is information here which, yeah, we'll get into it. But yeah, go away if you don't want to know. Is this film ground zero for the concept of slasher movies where an escaped mental patient terrorizes a babysitter. I think it is, but if you can think of any earlier examples, then please do put them in the comments. But yeah, I think this could be the first example of that. Chris gets kicked out, and now he's the one behind branches. He's inadvertently entered the trap. That's what we're being told visually. Cut to Amanda and the kid behind the bars of the crib. They're now trapped too. This is honestly beautiful stuff, the work of a very careful filmmaker. Chris gets his own bit of spooky sound design before a very early example of a slasher's POV shot. Perhaps the first of its kind outside of 1960s Peeping Tom. And people say Halloween invented this shit. No, this was a British invention. Don't you forget that. Speaking of influences and British influences, Amanda then watches a zombie movie on a black and white TV. Because it's a black and white zombie movie in a film, you might assume it's Night of the Living Dead, because that's always the black and white zombie movie playing on TVs in films, because Night of the Living Dead was out of copyright the moment it was released. But this is actually Plague of the Zombies from 1966, another British film which may have directly inspired an American movie. That's because Night of the Living Dead came out 2 years after Plague of the Zombies. Here, Plague is being used to enhance the sense of terror. When a character watches a horror film in a horror film, it gives what we're seeing a heightened sense of reality. It also allows us to kind of identify with the character, because they're watching a horror movie and so are we. So yeah, and this sort of introduction of horror imagery into the film is a turning point for the story. We're approaching the midpoint of the script, and the film's about to turn into a full-blown horror flick. And that's actually where I'm going to leave this analysis, because anything from this point is a big spoiler. It kind of becomes almost a different film at this point, so I don't want to ruin it for you, and I think I've probably done enough to make you want to watch it. And that is my job here at Hex. It's to bring you weird films, whether it's stuff that I'm recommending in these videos, or whether it's films I produce, or even films that I'm directing. I want to bring you cult movie experiences that you can't have anywhere else. So on that note, I am going to go, because I've got a meeting with Laurie Brewster at Hex, and we're going to go over the script for Church of Wild Animals, which I have here, the script for my next film. Yeah, there we go, written by Lauren Nasri. So yeah, we're going to talk about that in a sec, so I need to prepare for that. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the movies.